Indeed. Madeline Grant, I agree with Niall. It was a bizarre and robotic first address to the nation today. After watching that, Madeline, do you feel like Rishi Sunak can save the Conservative Party?
Well, I mean, as you point out, it was not the most inspiring start to the new premiership. But actually, in some ways, I think he does begin on having assembled a kind of consensus around him. I mean, granted, it is a fragile consensus, but I was struck by the extent of support that he found across the Conservative Party, including from factions that have not traditionally been the biggest fans of Rishi Sunak. It was, I mean, I think that I think, as Jerry said, there was a real problem for Liz Truss where people were sometimes appointed on based on loyalty rather than talent or experience. And I think this is going to be the next big challenge. As Tim said, can he assemble a cabinet of like minds? Can he keep this consensus going across the party? But to come back to the point about Boris Johnson, I think there is a certain amount of amnesia going on here. I mean, fundamentally, no one did more to topple Boris Johnson than Boris Johnson himself. And, you know, it wasn't just a question of Partygate. It was all sorts of things going way back even further. I mean, what really got the ball rolling was the Owen Paterson debacle and the fact that he was willing to kind of stick up for some quite bad behaviour and any sense of discipline broke down. Obviously, Rishi Sunak has a huge task ahead of him, and I think there's going to be various crunch points in the near future. I think there's going to be the most almighty row if Jeremy Hunt or whoever is Chancellor in a week's time decides to jettison things like the defence spending target. And across the board, I do not hear much willingness amongst Tory MPs for the kind of retrenchment that Rishi Sunak and Jeremy Hunt seem to be proposing. But for now, at least, I think he starts with a certain amount of goodwill and a sense, I think, of relief that it's not going to turn into a protracted, messy contest amongst MPs. But obviously, keeping that going will be the real difficulty.